Saw the president of the Senate clamp down and say Senator Abdul Ningi is getting a 3-month suspension from the Senate. What do you make so far of all that has unfolded in front of Nigerians about the whole padding budget allegations?
As a matter of fact, the 3-month suspension was quite lenient from the Senate because Senator Ningi had embarrassed the National Assembly and the entire government of Nigeria with the allegation that the federal government is operating a different budget from that was from the one that was signed by the president. It's not something that should be glossed over, and he had said it publicly, considering his caliber and his status as a lawmaker in Nigeria, who became a lawmaker from 1999. He was in the House of Representatives for 3 terms before moving over to the Senate. So by 2024, he had been a member of the National Assembly for 24 years. And so someone of his caliber should know the right thing to do and the right thing to say. Coming out to make an allegation that is unfounded, baseless, and totally false is not something that should be glossed over. If you recall, in the last 2-3 days, the media had been awash with posts and comments and reactions to the possibility of the federal government of Nigeria or the presidency, as a matter of fact, implementing or running with a different budget. He claimed that the National Assembly had passed a 25 trillion naira budget, whereas the federal government is implementing a 28 trillion naira budget, which is totally false. He was a member, or rather he is a member of the Appropriation Committee that sat over the budget, that midwifed the entire process of the budget. And so coming to the point where it was presented and passed and signed, he is in full knowledge of what the issues are and what the figures are. And so it's a huge embarrassment, and the 3 months he got as suspension was quite lenient.
Right. We understand that he's a leader of the Northern Senators Forum as well. Do you think that after this 3 months, what do you think would happen with his leadership on that forum, on that side as well, after this whole double coup?
Well, he may not spend the entire 3 months in suspension, because the Senate also gave created a window for him that he would have to apologize in writing, that if he does that by tomorrow or next week, they may consider that and then recall him as soon as they could. So he may not stay the entire 3 months. However, even if he stays the entire 3 months, he may not have any direct impact on his role or position as the leader of the Northern Senators Forum. Maybe someone will step in, his vice will step in acting capacity until he is recalled to the Senate. Remember, that is not a constitutional office. It is not also an elective office. It's a mere caucus of the National Assembly, a group of lawmakers from the same region that sit together. The interesting thing is that many members of the Northern Senators Forum were against him in this process. They faulted his claims. They faulted what he did. They stood up in the National Assembly to criticize and condemn him. So it'd be quite interesting to see whether they will take it further from there, and the conversation continues, or they will allow it to rest and he continues in his office as the leader of the Northern Senators Forum. But I want to quickly point out that allegation of budget padding is not new in Nigeria. I mean, it's been a long-running issue where the presidency, after collating what they intend to implement within a financial year, presents a proposal to the National Assembly for verification, for whatever conversation that they need to have before passing it. And then the National Assembly members sit in the comfort of their offices and begin to alter the figures to the way it suits them. That is just what budget padding means. That is where they insert what they call constituency projects. That is where they insert some of the projects that you may never see come to light of day. And that is also probably the reason why at the end of every financial year, you will never have up to 80% implementation of any budget, because some of the projects that were inserted in the projects in the budget was not part of the plan of the federal government that has a responsibility of executing the budget. The budget is a document of the federal government, not the National Assembly. And so when the National Assembly takes it up and tinkers it and alters it in very significant ways, it creates a problem. And that is actually what budget padding means. So it's not new, but it is something that must have to be looked into for us to make real progress. It is not the business of National Assembly members to construct roads. It is not the business of lawmakers to create all those empowerment programs that they pride themselves in. It is not the business of lawmakers to build schools. It is not their business. It is the business of the executive. Their business is to make laws and then carry out oversight functions of the executive. And unfortunately, where we find ourselves is where people that were elected to make laws take over the responsibility and the duties of the executive by saying that they ensure that the roads are constructed in their constituencies and all of that. That's not going to take us anywhere if we want to make real progress. Lawmakers should concentrate in making the laws while the executive concentrate in carrying out their functions.
Well, we're going to continue on that story to see how things unfold. We understand that the session at the Nigerian Senate is still ongoing. But Uzonna, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us.
My pleasure.
Uzonna, they're the head of news here at News Central. We'll take a break. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. London Arbitration Court overturned the $11 billion award, citing fraudulent procurement of the contract. NICAT Project City Services Limited and James Nolan are facing 20 counts related to charges of obtaining by pretense, money laundering, and criminal conversion of proceeds of crime totaling 151 million naira, 394,328 naira. Kaduna-based Muslim cleric Sheikh Ahmed Gumi has offered to engage in dialogue with the bandits responsible for the abduction of approximately 287 school children from Kugiri Government School, Secondary and LEA primary schools in the Chinko local government area of the state. Gumi's statement comes as a plea to President Bola Tinubu to grant him the opportunity to negotiate the release of the abducted children. The prominent Islamic scholar emphasized the importance of avoiding the mistakes of the past administration, which refused to engage in dialogue with bandits. Despite the refusal of the affected state government to negotiate with the bandits for the release of the school children and denying claims of hiring a private negotiator, Sheikh Ahmed Gimu urged the government to initiate dialogue not only for the Kuriga school abduction, but for all cases involving banditry. And on to food security, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has flagged off the Food Security and Agricultural Mechanization Program in Niger State. He noted that his administration remains committed to ensuring food sufficiency and protecting local industries for sustainable economic growth. Details in this report.
The project, an initiative of the Niger State government, is for the deployment of agricultural machinery and technology for large-scale agro-value chain development in the state. Speaking at the inauguration, President Tinubu said the event represents another step in the food security and agricultural mechanization agenda.
It is that time now for Nigeria to change the challenge and make it an economic opportunity. I don't see why Nigeria cannot feed all the pupils in our school.
He also talked about the student loan program.
The student loan program will commence. The social security program for the elderly and vulnerable will commence. We are fine-tuning all of that area. I'm going to relieve people of hunger.
Appreciating the president for honoring his invitation and inaugurating the facilities, Governor Muhammad Umar Bago said 4 states, including Benue, Kogi, Kwara, and Lagos, had already signed memoranda of understanding on building partnerships for the development of agriculture.
Mr. President, your presence here today underscores the importance of this occasion to our great state, in particular, and in Nigeria as a whole. As we gather to celebrate a good example demonstrated in our modest contribution to infrastructure and our agricultural development as encapsulated in our new Nigeria agenda.
The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, disclosed that the federal government had signed an agreement with the Brazilian government and German Deutsche Bank Group as financiers of a facility of 995 million euros for the Green Imperative program, which will provide mechanization hubs across the 774 local government areas in Nigeria when implemented. While in Niger State, President Tinubu also visited former Nigerian heads of state, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida and General Abdulsalami Abubakar, with whom he had fruitful discussions concerning the advancement of the nation.
The leaders of embattled neighbors, that's Rwanda and DR Congo, may be poised to meet to discuss fighting in eastern Congolese regions that Kigali has been accused of inflaming. Fighting between Tutsi M23 rebels and Congolese soldiers has forced more than 100,000 people to flee. The head of the French Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor's Office, Jean-François Richard, had arrived in Kigali this Monday, a month before the 30th commemorations of the genocide against the Tutsis. He says there's a need to improve cooperation with the Rwandan authorities in order to fast-track the trial of suspected genocide perpetrators living in France.
Durante essa reunião, ficou acordado que o presidente, em breve, o presidente Kagame aceita o princípio de encontrar-se com o presidente Tshisekedi numa data a ser, portanto, indicada pelo o medianeiro, e também a parte ruandesa aceita o princípio que já tinha sido acordado com a parte congolesa no sentido de as delegações ministeriais trabalharem para se chegar a este passo.
The funeral of former Ivorian President Henry Konan Bédié, who died on August 1st, 2023, will begin on May 20th. This was announced by the head of state, Alassane Ouattara, and the president of the Democratic Party of Ivorian Coast, that's PDCI, Dijan Tam, at a meeting. Now, this was the first official outing between the president and Tam since the latter's election as head of the main opposition party.
Le souhait de la famille, c'est que les obsèques commencent à partir du lundi 20 mai, et c'est ce qui se fera avec l'aide et la bénédiction du président et le soutien de l'État. Donc,
le président Thiam nous a également informé de la décision de la famille du président Henri Konan Bédié et du PDCI de la période des obsèques de feu le président Henri Konan Bédié, mon aîné. Et la date, je crois, est fixée du 20 mai au 2 juin de cette année. Et le président honoraire du PDCI, le doyen Kopli Boni, est venu me présenter le président du PDCI qui a été élu il y a quelques semaines comme président du PDCI, en remplacement de mon frère aîné, le président Henri Konan Bédié. Et c'est un parti avec lequel le RHDP a des relations fortes, étroites, la même philosophie, la même vision, pour une Côte d'Ivoire en paix, stable et prospère. Le président Thiam, que je connais, est donc le président élu du PDCI-RDA, et je pense qu'il va beaucoup apporter à ce.
South Africa's opposition Inkatha Freedom Party has launched its general election campaign at the Moses Bantaba Stadium in Durban in front of mass supporters. The party's leadership vowed to rout out crime and corruption among the pressing issues facing the nation.
In the history of our country is experiencing a number of problems: unemployment, crime, load shedding, corruption, and the list is endless. The IFP is going to come tough when it comes to the issue of crime. You know, if you want to deal with crime, you must be tough on crime and criminals. You must introduce stringent measures that will send a message to criminals that South Africa is not going to be a banana republic anymore. The IFP will also introduce consequence management. Whoever go wrong, whether it is an official or a political representative, we will not allow corrupt leaders to continue earning salary out of the taxpayers' money. Look, the Zondo Commission pointed out clearly who are implicated amongst cabinet ministers, national and members of the National Assembly. They are still there earning salary out of the taxpayers' money.
Ngize lapha nje ngithole okuhlukile kakhulu imanifesto ebihamba ngokuthi ebithula upresident, it's a 13 plan manifesto. Izinto akakhulume ngazo ukhuluma ngokuthi uzonyusa izinga lokuthi ugesi unabusahamba i-load shedding, bazo-introduce i-nuclear ukuze ikwazi ukulekelela amandla kagesi, ephinde futhi naseyinkampanini kahulumeni.
Second point engipick upile, drugs attention. Intsha yethu iphelele lapho ema-drugsini. We're looking at what's the causes. Sikhipina amaphoyisa ukuthi they need to be at local communities. Kube nama-containers amaphoyisa amaningi, kungalokho kube nama-distance amaphoyisa ukuthi abe kude nomphakathi. The third one, the economy itself.
Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry has agreed to step aside as armed guards plunge his country into anarchy, accepting a regional push for a transition that sets the stage for international intervention. Caribbean nations secured Henry's resignation at an emergency meeting in Jamaica, where U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken offered another $100 million to pave the way for the security force, which will be led by Kenya. Gangs have taken over much of the country, and in recent weeks, the crisis has grown even more violent, with bodies strewn across the streets, armed bandits looting basic infrastructure, and fears rising of a famine. Now, gang leaders had demanded the departure of Henry, who had remained in power since 2021 when Haiti's president was assassinated. Haiti has not held an election since 2016.
M'a dirigé après Conseil des ministres Asuquo accepté pour mettre en place un conseil présidentiel de transition. Membre conseil sa yo pral choisi après une entente entre différents secteurs de la vie nationale. Gouvernement que m'a dirigé a retiré col immédiatement après installation conseil ça. Il a continué à expédier affaires courantes jusqu'à ce que vous désigniez un premier ministre et un gouvernement. Haïti besoin de la paix. Haïti besoin de stabilité. Haïti besoin d'un développement durable. Haïti besoin de rebâtir institutions.
Authorities in France say the search has continued for 2 children who went missing in the southern part of the country following the weekend floods, which killed 5 people. Commander of the Allies Gendarmerie Company, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Saleh, explained that a search force of around 100 personnel led by the Gendarmerie with technical support, notably from the fire department, has been deployed to the site.
Donc, la situation aujourd'hui, c'est que c'est le 3e jour de recherche depuis la disparition des personnes pour lesquelles nous essayons de retrouver la trace. Donc en l'occurrence, hier, il y a eu la découverte d'une des 3 personnes et nous sommes donc toujours dans les opérations de recherche, à la fois par la voie terrestre, par la voie aquatique et par la voie aérienne, donc de manière à avoir vraiment une vue globale sur l'ensemble des points où les personnes pourraient être retenues. Donc les opérations qui sont en cours, elles sont actuellement appuyées par une centaine de personnels. Donc c'est des équipes qui sont mixtes, c'est un dispositif de recherche, donc dirigé par la gendarmerie, avec l'appui de moyens techniques, notamment des pompiers. Donc une centaine de personnels qui sont répartis par secteur, où on priorise par en fait la pertinence de pouvoir retrouver les personnes qui sont recherchées. On raisonne.
We'll take our focus now to business as Bitcoin attains a new peak driven by substantial investments from major U.S. finance firms and the green light for spot Bitcoin ETFs by U.S. regulators. The influx of institutional investors and available investment products linked to Bitcoin's value is pivotal to its recent surge, despite experts urging caution due to its inherent volatility. The upcoming halving event in April adds uncertainty. Now, in parallel, Binance, a leading global crypto exchange, discontinues services involving the Nigerian naira amid regulatory disputes with the Nigerian government. Accusations of forex market manipulation and illicit fund movements, reflecting the ongoing challenges in the crypto regulatory landscape. Earlier, the CEO of Trade Fada, Seun Daniel, joined us on the news to make sense of this development.
Of cryptocurrency. So essentially, Bitcoin ETF is a fund that tracks the price of Bitcoin, allowing investors to be able to buy into the ETFs without going through the process of trading Bitcoin itself. So this means that investors can potentially profit from the price movements of Bitcoin without owning actual Bitcoins. So the reasons why the U.S. regulators, notably the Security and Exchange Commission, will permit Bitcoin ETFs is primarily because they need to offer a regulated, more secure and accessible way of institutional and retail investors to gain exposure to Bitcoin. I think they understand that there's a growing interest, for investments in cryptocurrencies, and permitting ETFs is sort of like their way of bridging between traditional finance markets and the world of digital.
Now we'll focus on sports with very shocking news here as the top seed Novak Djokovic was sent crashing out of the ATP WTA Indian Wells Masters, now losing in 3 sets to lowly ranked Italian Luca Nardi. Now Nardi, ranked at 123rd in the world, played superbly to win 6-4, 3-6, 6-3 as Djokovic's return to Indian Wells ended in a stunning third-round exit. Nardi became only the 6th player ranked outside the top 100 to defeat a world number 1 at the Masters level since 1990. Now Djokovic has now lost 5 of his last 7 matches played against Italians, including 3 featuring 4th-ranked Jannik Sinner.
He's got it, Nardi. And it's Luca Nardi who breaks first.
And that's all we can take at this time. Thank you so much for watching. But remember that you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. And do follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Judith, Atibi.